And congratulate Ula for this lovely film. I've seen it twice now because I saw it with the director's Q&A in Glasgow 2 or 3 months ago. Um, uh, I'm glad I've seen it twice. I was looking at it with different eyes and looking at it again. You mentioned earlier today that was this the first thing you've done with Paul McGoodin, the director? Yeah.
So Paul is very decisive. He sort of has an idea of who he wants to work with, and I think somebody from the agency gave him my reel, and we had a Skype interview. And by the end of the interview, I was really ill, and I didn't feel very well, and I was very nervous. And by the end of the interview, he said, "Well, I wanted to shoot it, so I hope you're not going to turn me down," which is actually so brilliant to hear. That you've got a director who says that. And I've done so badly at this interview as well. So it was like great. So it was a matter of meeting Barbara and Colin, who produced the movie, and they have a sort of philosophy of giving director a free hand and not really intervene too much within their decision making. So they okayed me as well, that they checked my references, and then I was on board. However, I didn't realize how big a task to my experience at the time this film actually has been, because I've never shot on the stage, I've never shot in the theater, I've never done a lot of things I've done on this movie for the first time.
I mean, it was kind of deep ended. Barbara Broccoli, wasn't it? Producing it, so that's pretty, big. And like you said, you shot on a stage in Pinewood, I think, was it?
So we shot in new stages in Pinewood. We actually were the first film crew to shoot them. The first 2 stages were released to us.
Great.
It's called Pinewood East.
Okay, yeah. And of course then you had Annette Bening, an incredible actress.
Yes.
And Jamie Bell, who I thought amazing. And Vanessa Redgrave just thrown in as a...
Actually, she made me so nervous. everyone was at best behavior when she was on set. It was only one day.
But what a performance, that was incredible. Well, the whole film is full of great performances, and it's a very moving film, full of passion and things. And I think that, your camera work, obviously, because you operate as well as light, brought that out beautifully, really beautifully. So, the love scenes, the dancing scene I love at the beginning, the title sequence, is, I could go on and on and on like that. So although it was your first film with Paul and with all those the pressures, you still managed to pull that off. We talked a little bit today, so I know you were nervous about that, but what is it that you feel you've learned from doing it, and what have you brought to your next project from that?
I think I was just mentioning to you earlier. A lot of the times when you come out from film school and then you do your TV dramas and then sort of throughout the years, it's very rare to get just purely lit, a film about lighting where everything. I mean, it's not the film about lighting, but it's a film which your knowledge of lighting had to be put to test, and you really had to have an idea. Pretty much every interior was in the studio, so. It's actually pretty tricky because you never gain that experience beforehand. And we had a lot of extra elements, not just lighting and obviously the creative design, the emotional design of the story. But we also had a lot of translights. And the translights we had from Roscoe, they were the new translights. So actually no one knew how to light them because they were day and night. Yeah. So there was a lot of times where we actually... Obviously, the schedule was quite tough. The prep was short relatively to the amount of stages we had. We couldn't really pre-light anything because the stages weren't ready at the time when we... In a normal movie, you'd sort of... you would start building, you would check out, you would do the layout, and then maybe you go to the locations and then come back. Things will get in motion. However, we couldn't do any of that because the stages weren't ready. So by the time when we actually walked in and started shooting in Pinewood, it was go, go, go all the time. So there was no break.
Yeah, it's probably worth mentioning the budget was what?
I think it was about 5 million.
Okay.
5 million pounds.
Yeah. Okay.
And pretty much, as I said, there's so many stages in there, so a lot went into the production.
And you had to recreate parts of New York. You did the interiors. You did traveling through LA and places, and obviously you used the translights.
So there were translights and the back projections.
And back projection, yeah.
So
which Lester Dunton did, of course, yeah. So So that's intentional. It's to give a feel of the period, because films, obviously, of that period would have been of.
I mean, the whole movie is a melodrama about and a homage to Gloria Graham. Mm-hmm. So, and it's pretty much told through Peter's eyes, and these are real people and real events which really happened, and we were trying to bring the sort of cinematic, romantic touch to it. Yeah. So the inspiration came around from Gloria's movies, and strangely, I remember when Paul and I were talking on Skype, I kind of thought that this is going to be all shot in the studio. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I don't think it's been mentioned. It was just something which was sort of become quite obvious just from reading. I felt that was the right treatment, rather than trying to make it naturalistic. Yeah,
I think you did it. You did it very brilliantly, I thought. What are my questions here? Like, your prep. We kind of gone through that a little bit. Yeah. Did you have influences that you referred to, or references? We talked a little bit photographically or filmically. Did you watch the films of Gloria Graham or anything?
Yeah, we watch all her movies, and In a Lonely Place was sort of the biggest inspiration somehow, and that sort of that dictated the back projections. There is a scene with Humphrey Bogart where they're driving and they're getting to the beach, and that was all done on traveling mats. Yeah. So then we decided we wanted to do very little VFX. Mm-hmm. There were a couple of cheats, but really everything was done on camera. And
don't tell us the cheats. No. I thought the transitions are very clever.
All the transitions are for real.
Yeah, and Paul mentioned that and referred to your ability to do that. You know, that traveling, you know, from one set into the next, or those like 360-degree shots where they change costume and they change their position in the bed or whatever. That was, you know. I mean, they're beautiful cinematic tricks that I think which are probably not used as much today as they were in other days, because you're more likely to use the visual effects. But the film feels very genuine and real because you do those transitions in camera. And and it looked like you repeated bits of set in different places. You know, you could see the film had an economy. And it didn't feel at all wasteful, but it yet had an expanse. So I think, you know,
it's actually quite tricky to create a sort of landscape out of interiors with a woman who spent a lot of time in bed.
Yes. Indeed. And there were sets where, you know, you had to revisit those sets again and again.
Yes. But there were little bits. The transition scene from the Grunion scene into the corridor where he's just about phoning up the doctor. Yeah. That was just a add-on. There were the little moments where we had just elements used for the transitions.
Yeah. It's probably worth mentioning a bit about the technique. The cameras you used, Arri.
Yes. Arri and Master Pines with uncoated lenses, and we had a set of coated lenses as well.
I mean, watching the film, you can see how much you love lenses, focus, which I always say is like the best tools you have. You know, the way you use focus on the scenes, those big close-ups, beautiful close-ups you did, and you had to deal with an actress who was changing. Well, both actors changing age because it was flashback in it.
Well, they were it was all set within 3 years.
They didn't
they were sort of.
And then you have actress who's very, very beautiful, but also, you know, has to look beautiful at the time she's in those scenes. So I think, was there any tricks you used for that, maybe for beauty lighting, or did you treat anything differently? Because You felt there was. You said when Vanessa was on the set, you felt a little nervous, but
I think she made everyone nervous, actually. She's with such a heritage. But the tricks, I don't know. I mean, the key is to make sure that Annette looked ill, and not to try. And I think Annette was very adamant that this is a real story. So we are not going to use any tricks, lighting tricks, for the times where she is ill.
right. Yeah.
So we actually we hardly use any fill. It's just a matter of getting something in the eye. And there are certain moments where we use sort of, for earlier times, we were using whether China balls or lights and so on. There was an element of a cosmetic lighting, but actually it was more to do with quite strong backlights and the idea of the memory, and we used quite a lot of lights just shining into the lens, so you just had to compensate it and actually light the actors.
I thought that too when you had the back projection and also shooting through voiles that kind of softened the edges of images as well. It was all very nice kind of control of that. What was I going to say? We've done the studio, we've done it with techniques and lenses. You like a light meter, don't you? Instead of you working with your DIT or with lighting with.
So I remember when I was asking for advice for the back projections, and we basically everyone who I talked to. I must mention Stefan Lang, who did a really. I mean, he spent time on the roof photographing the exterior of the New York apartment for the Translight, and also did an absolutely beautiful back projection for the moonlight scene.
Right, yeah.
And that happened in Kent and Broadstairs.
Really?
Because we couldn't find the play. In LA, we did shoot some stuff in LA because we had to shoot the caravan park, but actually at that time we didn't have. The idea is that the sun is gonna the moon. We wanted to shoot day for night, or sort of dusk for night. So I wanted to have sun in the frame, and it had to be late enough. At that time in May, June, the West Coast didn't have directly the sunset. It had it too much going south. So going north. So whatever, I can't think of now. I know that. But we couldn't get the sun in the frame.
Yeah.
So actually Stefan said, which was a brilliant idea, he said, we need to do it in UK, and I'm confident that we can do it. And he did, and it was a beautiful back projection, which we used Alexa 65 for, which was a brilliant decision as well.
Okay.
Because it really needed the resolution for that.
Because of the projection, or because of...
Well, back projections, normally I used... so every time when I called anyone, and I will get back to light meter story, but every time when we talked to anyone about back projections, they said, well, they're greatly used, but as a reflection, you have to put a big window in front of it, and preferably smudge the window and make it basically not look at the back projection at all. I was like, well... But actually the whole idea is about the back projections. And
certainly that scene on the beach, which is, there's nothing you can put between it. You could if you were inside the apartment or something.
So people were saying maybe we should shoot it inside of the car. And I was like, but that's not the idea. The idea is that, so we had to figure out how to do it. And I had a big conversation with lots of VFX people from LA and also Steve Yedlin, who among a lot of advice he gave me, he also said, so how do you work, and do you use light meter? And I said, well, not really. And he said, well, I don't know how you work then. So actually, when we started shooting Film Stars, I did start using light meter, and it was a good discipline to do, and it's a discipline, I think, which I recommend. It's something which I was just mentioning before. It just makes you not understanding the exposure. I think if I were shooting now on film, I think I wouldn't be as scared as a lot of people. Is the conversation I had with someone that they're scared going back onto 35 mil, but actually it's all about understanding the contrast ratio and how you can push and testing.
Exactly.
And if you use light mirror on your digital projects, I think the philosophy stays.
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah, I think there's a good tip to everyone to never put that away. There's light media's got to be with you. Just those little ratios that you want to just check and confirm that there's some light on this scene or whatever.
Well, sometimes you don't have a light, and then you go into EV numbers, and it's quite scary. But on digital, you kind of figure it out. But LUTs make the difference. The grade make the difference. So it's sort of good to have a base.
Yeah.
Idea of your basic exposure, and I've been using it ever since, actually.
Sure. Just technically as well, Asa Shaw was the colorist, I know. He's very nice, very good friend, and excellent colorist. And we're not short of that. I mean, working in Britain, you have great crews. It looks like you had all the people that you would have liked to have on there. I mean, on your set with the camera team and so on. I mean, maybe.
We had the camera team was amazing, actually. Johnny Gray. Johnny was fantastic. A really good focus puller. The camera team was incredible. And then, I mean, everyone on their sort of projects, everyone goes way beyond and above, because it's not a studio project. It's it's an art house movie, really, when you think about it.
It is, yeah. And I think we need more of that British filmmaking. We need more opportunities for people to get to make those kind of films, because the passion for that is obvious in this country. We're great filmmakers, and we have a lot of big films coming in here, and that takes up a lot of work and labour, but it's not necessarily giving opportunities to people to get on and start making those films that I'm sure everyone in this room would love to be making. Those films of now 5 million is considered quite a small budget, but it's a good budget to make a film.
It's a big budget depending what you're shooting.
Yeah.
I must mention also, because MBS has been. I mean, at the time we were filming, Annihilation Rob was filming. I think Seamus McGarvey was filming live, and then there was a couple of other. I think the Space Bear, the Star Wars were filming as well.
Yeah.
So there was a very little lights available, and there was lots of reshuffling, and actually in the end, all those big productions were finishing. So we got quite a lot of very nice lights, very nice lamps.
Good. So there is some trickle down effect from the films. So that's good to hear. Yeah, good. And can I just maybe ask? No, maybe you should ask some questions from the audience. Anyone got any questions? Thoughts? Someone up here? Yeah, we've got a microphone.
We had actually Lester Dunton coming in to the NFTS this year to talk a little bit about back projection. But I'd be interested to figure out where did it come from to use back projection for such a big shot, and at which point in the pre-production it came about, and what tests did you do?
I mean, that we sort of always thought that this is going to be done whether translate to back projection. Back projection was the initial idea because of the In a Lonely Place. And we sort of stylistically, it was quite a lot of discussion of how much we wanted to feel like back projection and how much we wanted to feel real. And I think we sort of thought that we tried to make it as real as possible and integral to the plates, but colors will dictate a sort of slight, surreal, otherworldly, cinematic sort of way of the scene just had that sort of heightened realism. And I think that's really what we end up achieving.
Yeah, I've used translights just as backdrops, just to sell a space, but not to put it as part of the story, which is what you're doing basically. You're putting, when you're saying that this, I'm showing a period of film making, and certainly the beach scene, it became integral to that story. I love the way they walk onto up to the end of the set, basically, which is
it was
the
quite
sand
scary.
dunes.
So don't
The
go
sand
so
dunes,
close.
And you know, I can remember that from films, you know, you watched back in the day, where you know you could see them get to the end of the set and go silhouette. It was lovely, yeah. So,
but there was answering your. I mean, there is a lot. There was a lot of tests, and because we didn't have the money, the tests were very basic, and actually what we required is a one big ride test with a ride plate. The plate dictates everything, and you can't. Really, the test happened when we got the graded footage, and then we knew how we're going to light it, and we knew what's the scope of cheating the lighting and how to make it. It all sort of happened over a weekend, really, in the end. And then Monday or Tuesday we end up shooting the scenes. Yeah,
it's just filmmaking is you're learning the process as you're going along. I mean, I have to hold my hand up. I'm the same. You get, you know, after years of doing it, you're still trying to find something new to. You're having to find something new to develop to get to the next stage. And I'm sure.
But also because we didn't, you know, all those things happened right at the last hour because we didn't have that comfort of a prep. But I think a lot of movies do happen like that.
Yeah, sure.
So you end up having the access to the stage or the access to the footage or the access to the plate right at the last minute.
Yeah. Are there any other questions, sir? Yeah.
Hi, Ula. Congratulations. I wanted to speak just briefly about a particular shot when Peter says his farewell to Gloria. And I think the way you lit that exterior in Liverpool was just beautiful. Just the colour, the browns, and it really felt like that era in Liverpool. So well done to you. But I just wanted to maybe dig into that a little deeper. And did you treat the lamps with any colour correction, or did you, to achieve that, it felt a bit like a mixture between like a sodium vapor, but also almost like a bastard amber kind of feel to that, you know, the browns. It was beautiful. So could you go into that a little bit more?
I mean, I don't remember exactly, but those lights, we actually had a lot of discussion about the street, because the idea was, and we had very little time again, and we were right around I think we were shooting 27th of June, so the night, we had maybe about 3 hours of the night. Initially, I thought that maybe I could cheat some lamps and push the, I could install the lamps and hide them somehow, and that would create the sort of singular pools. The lights actually weren't very bright, and they were in the right color temperature, and they were modified. So in the end, I think we calculated, and I've ordered a big Wendy light, put a gel which would probably compensate. So we measured it. I did a little test on a Photoshop, and then offset that color. I knew more or less what color I wanted to make. I wanted to make it look vapor, sodium vapor, sort of my interpretation of sodium vapor.
Yeah. And that's what you drew into the room as well, wasn't it?
Yes.
You know, so you had that colour come into the bedroom.
Yes.
When she wants the lights turned out, you see the colour. So yeah, no, it worked very well. Yeah.
And I think the Wendy light just had a couple of tones. We probably put some blue into it, or maybe not corrected it as strongly. I don't remember exactly what we did, but we wanted to make it look a slightly different color.
Yeah. To anyone else? Any? No. Well, I could ask you, what is your next project? Have you got anything coming up?
Not at the moment. I think, yes, not at the moment.
No, okay.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's not good luck to talk about it, is it? No. Good. Yeah, here's a question from Nigel.
I'd just like to, well, first of all, congratulations. I love the night scene overlooking the sea, which is so difficult to shoot, and you did that superbly well. But I would like to ask you about your philosophy regarding flares. You know, the discipline of film we eliminated flares, but you seem to make no effort, particularly in the first half of the film, to eliminate them.
We did very opposite of it. We had an uncoated set of lenses and blast as much light as it possible into the lenses. I took the hood out, and we didn't really have any NDs in front of it, and everything was optimized for maximum flare.
Yeah. I interpret that as being in love with the lens. You like the lens, you let the light play with the lens, and that's, you know, I enjoyed that. I thought it was a good, you know, it portrayed that early romantic period in the film as they meet each other.
I really like a photographer called Rinko Kauchi, and she does this beautiful storytelling, like narrative stills of everyday life from her friends and families, and there is a certain level of lightness to her. And Paul really loves uncoated lenses on top of it, so we're sort of two minds met together, and every time when I chickened out a bit about the flares, Paul's like, no, let's go ahead with it and let's accentuate it, and it sort of came from the idea of a memory and the idea of romance.
And Paul works in LA a lot, doesn't he? Does he TV shows and stuff? From what you were saying.
Yes, so he works in UK and he works in US.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
well, he's a great British filmmaker. He's made. It's one of the good contributions we have to British filmmaking.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, it's great that you work with him. And I think maybe again, or maybe on to the next thing. You know, but I'm going to have one more chance. See if anyone's got any questions out there. Yeah. Okay, there's two questions coming. One at the top there.
First of all, I thought it looked great, very good film, and I liked the flares. But I just wanted to find out. I mean, you were saying it was the first time you had to light on stages and sets that were built and so on. What experiences or what things did you feel you learned, or are there any lessons to be learned from it? Things you would have done differently, maybe had you had your chance again with some of the scenes or shots or whatever? Are there any lessons to be learned first time getting into a set?
You always want to relight the whole entire movie. But I think the biggest lesson I've learned it's that you treat differently HMIs than tungsten lights. HMIs, most of the time when you shoot interiors, you obviously deal with bounced, with available light. Quite often you shoot, sometimes you don't, depending on, but the decision is that quite often you would use HMI lights to push the daylight through location. But obviously the tungsten don't have the same punch. And this is something what I've learned. When we set up the first scene, I've bounced a lot of lights, and then I realized that it just doesn't quite work. You had to go direct, and if you wanted to have a sense of a sort of a softened light or not direct sunlight, then you just treated it differently, whether you diffuse it or... I did end up bouncing the light and used my own techniques, but it was... I don't know whether there's any philosophy to it. It's just, I sort of envisaged that there is a scene, this is how it should look like, and sort of plan my lighting accordingly. The only thing we did on Film Stars is that we took the Fresnel out of the 5Ks to just whether to push to have a harder shapes on the walls or to accentuate the rain and
the sunlight too. So you also.
But the sunlight was used with different lamps. That was the sort of extra lamps for little shapes, which I haven't done before.
Okay.
And I quite like that technique.
What lamps did you use for the sunlight?
It depends. So all the memories were done with more beams.
Okay.
Because the idea is that the LA and New York have America meant to feel very different.
Mm-hmm.
That was my impression from LA when I went there. It just felt very sunny.
Different latitude. We have a very particular North European light here, and Los Angeles is much more towards the tropics. So, I always had the theory that Kodak film was designed for American
Yeah.
light, well, Californian light, and Fujifilm was more of a softer, cloudier place. So I partly like Fuji, but yeah,
Fuji Vivid
yeah,
is, is another.
yeah. There's a question here as well.
Yeah. Don't need it. We're really close.
Yeah.
It was, sorry to take it back to flares again, but that scene when they were on the beach and they were looking at each other, there was like this kind of, the flares almost looked like stars between them. And I was wondering whether that was an intentional choice or just a kind of happy accident.
You mean on the beach when they're with the Gronians?
Yeah, when they, yeah, I think it was on the beach with.
The night scene,
Yeah.
just two of them and by the car.
Yeah.
No, there was actually no flares, and we didn't use the. It was a little moment. In the script, they say that there are Gronians who are making love. So we used we created little sequins on the board just to create a little bit of a shimmer, and then we accentuate the shimmer on the plate. So that's what it was.
There you go. That's a trick. Yeah. Yeah. Any questions? Any more questions? I think finally I'm going to say, because is what I was going to start with, but we could rewind a little bit. But you started working with Chris Menges, didn't you?
Well, my first job as an assistant was Dirty Pretty Things, and then I assisted for Nigel afterwards. And then my last job was Notes on a Scandal,
Okay.
and then I got into film school.
Okay.
So that was a fantastic lessons.
Great,
From
yeah.
great cinematographers.
Great people to learn from, yeah. Apart from Nigel. I'm only kidding, me. No, there's, yeah. And Chris has been a mentor to a lot of people, and I think he's influenced hugely British cinema. So yeah, it's a great thing. Yeah. I think I've run out of questions. No one else wants to add anything. I think it's just great, a lovely film, and
Thank you.
I think you did a really good job. Especially, it's got an epicness, even though it's really about two people. And when they sit down and they play out the parts of Romeo and Juliet, it really got me going. It's a beautiful film and beautifully
Thank you,
done.
Barry.
Yeah, great work.
Thank you.